We are at Tom's Offroad, their brand new warehouse. Donnie and I flew in from Nashville to be here for the rock and roll event. For those who aren't familiar, I don't know where you would be if you're not. This is Tom. He is the Tom of Tom's Offroad. And Walt, his son, the son of Tom's Offroad.
That is true.
So when we got the invitation for this gala here to open the showroom, I read it as 1976 semi-formal. And so I wore bell bottoms. I throwed my hair out.
Yeah.
In honor of, I was thinking we would have slow dances and listen to the Beatles.
No, disco hall.
Disco hall.
76.
So today we just wanted to throw a microphone in front of your guys' face and just get the story, get the scoop, talk about the new facility, talk about the history. But before we go into this, I'm sorry, I do video production full time. That's kind of my gig. And so I write a lot of scripts and I write down ideas a lot of times. And I had this idea. I was thinking about how Tom started Tom's Offroad. And I said, this is how I think it went in my mind. And I wrote it down and I thought, it might be fun for us just to read through this, kind of as a script. Now, Tom, I left you out, so you're going to be a bystander in this. You're just going to be listening. Donnie's going to be our narrator, okay? I'm going to play the role of Tom Wimmer.
Okay.
And Walt is going to play the role of Walt Wimmer. So Walt and Donnie, your narrator, Walt and Donnie have not seen this. So this is fresh to them. Fresh to their eyes, and Donnie, I'm gonna need some passion here, okay?
Okay.
And Walt, I want you to get. We gotta sell this to Tom here, okay? We got to bring the heat.
I was in drama middle school late,
okay.
so
all right.
I'll reach down deep. I'll bring it back.
Okay,
I appreciate the
go.
highlights too.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
That's your part.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Donnie.
The year is 1986. Tom Wimmer comes home from a hard day's work, working in the salt mines. His two boys, Mark, 3 years old, and Walt, 7 years old, are sitting on the living room floor watching My Little Pony.
I'm home from a long day at the salt mines. My britches are full of salt.
Thank you, Father, for your hard work providing us food to eat and shelter over our heads. You are a true inspiration to the whole family.
I just don't think I can do it anymore, son. My passion, my love is the Ford Bronco. I dream of a day I can build Broncos, make people happy by selling them Bronco parts.
Tom looks out into the driveway at his 1976 Ford Bronco with shag carpet and disco ball hanging from the rearview mirror, and diamond plate door inserts, thinking back at all the memories he had with his trusty steed.
That's it, boys. I've made up my mind. I must deliver a quality product to the good people of America. Ford needs me. The Bronco needs me.
But Dad, what about Bronco 2? Will you make parts for the Bronco 2?
Well, son, a lot like that show you're watching. The Bronco 2 is a lot like Ford's Little Pony. It's not a real Bronco, son.
The family laughs. And that day goes down in history as the day Tom's Offroad all started.
Was that how it went?
Very close.
I was only 7, but it sounded just like, and it was bringing back memories, nostalgia. So accurate.
Scary how much he sounds like your dad.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was a teenager when it kind of started, so it was before him.
Really?
Before him. My dad had a mechanic shop his whole life, and when I was a little guy, I'd help sweep floors and hang out with the mechanics. And when I was actually about 12 years old, one of his mechanics had a 66 Bronco, and that's how I fell in love with them. We'd go out four-wheeling, fishing, hunting, and when I was 16, that's when I bought my first Bronco, and I had it for about 3 years, wore it out, and then I bought that 76. And so that's kind of how it started. And then luckily, on my first Bronco. It was a 69, and I think I was 18 years old. I was out in Eastern Oregon on a hunting trip, went off a gravel road, and I tipped it upside down. I crashed the run. You know, and I was kind of bummed that I rolled my Bronco, but when I came home, I bought another one to fix it up, and the kind of light bulb kind of went off going, well, these parts are, you know, very sought after, and that was kind of going part-time for 3 or 4 years in my dad's backyard, and that's kind of how it started.
What year was that?
That would have been in right at 76. Yeah.
Okay.
75.
Oh,
76.
okay. So when we got the invitation for this gala here to open the showroom, I read it as 1976 semi-formal. And so I wore bell bottoms. I throwed my hair out.
Yeah.
In honor of, I was thinking we would have slow dances and listen to the Beatles.
No, true disco hall.
Disco hall.
76. My red hair was just like your hair. But it all fucking on Broncos too much. Anyway, but no, 76, 77 were some good years, and it's just amazing how things have grown and the popularity, and it's just a wild ride, and seeing them in TV commercials, the Hollywood people, and just a great customer, base that we have, and a lot of people told me to sell Jeep parts in the 70s and 80s. I can't give me a Jeep, but luckily picked my dad's mechanic had a Bronco, so I think that was a blessing in disguise that it all worked out.
Yep.
Well, so when I came, I got a tour of your previous facilities. So can you tell us a little bit about your first place?
Yeah, my first place, it was actually just a mile down the road from here. And that was in my dad's house on Ross Lane. And he had a little 3-car carport. And that's where we ran the business for about 3 or 4 years. And the neighbors turned us in because we were running a business. And the city said, hey, you have to move. So that's when we moved over about...
Dad, tell them what you did to your sister's room, though.
Oh, yeah. It's actually my sister's room. I made it into a warehouse. So I put shelves in there.
Oh, my God.
Way back in the day, give Duffy a plug. I was selling Duffy's parts.
Yeah.
And I was one of his dealers. And then KRS from Las Vegas.
Yes.
He was a big dealer. I went down and saw him. But so in my dad's backyard, I had a little warehouse up in my sister's bedroom. Then we had the parts strung all over we had about almost 1 acre of property and had a lot of wrecked Broncos out there. Got chased out of there. Then we went over to Sage Road for almost 30 years.
Okay.
And then that was, give you some square footage, roughly 15,000 square feet.
Okay.
And then 7 years ago, we moved over off of Highway 99 into 25,000 square feet.
Wow.
And we ran out of room. And now today we moved into this place, which is almost 70,000 square feet. So that's kind of...
So all of this started from you buying Broncos and literally parting them out.
Yeah, parting them out. Yeah.
Which is a no-no.
Which is
today's culture.
Nobody parted Broncos.
And then, while we're on this podcast, there was quite a few times I would buy a nice $3,000-$4,000 Bronco. I could have sold her for $5,000, but I could have parted it out for $10,000 or $15,000.
Yeah.
And so I did quite a few times, and I feel bad that those are off the road. But, it was just kind of, I thought there was a never-ending supply of Broncos, but now that would be criminal to part out anything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a nutshell how that started.
Now, were you doing anything else other than Broncos?
I worked at Standard Oil, Chevron. I was running a couple of their service stations, and so I worked maybe 30 hours a week doing that, maybe 20 hours a week doing the Bronco. So I was running 2 jobs until I was right at about 30.
Wow.
Yeah, because there just wasn't enough money to make it a full-time job. But then once I left my Standard Oil Chevron days, I was roughly a little over 30, came over to the shop full-time and started advertising a lot more in the magazines. Tell you a little story. The first magazine I started at, it was $27 a month advertised in the back of it. And when I got out of the magazines, it was $1,000 a month for a little teeny square. So when I got out of the magazines about 20 years ago, we were spending almost $5,000 a month in advertising.
Wow.
And now that's all turned over to the internet.
Yeah.
So that's
For those viewers who don't know what a magazine is,
Please tell us, Tony.
So I'm kind of old school. I'm not much of a computer guy, but back in the day, that's how it was done.
So you're working this job. You're selling these Bronco parts. When was the moment where it was like, I think I can make my living off of this?
Oh, it was kind of when Chevron and Standard moved out of town. So it's like, well, it's kind of like
you're
before.
It's better for you. Okay.
So,
yeah.
So, but I knew I could make the same living as what I was, but once I came over full time and kind of exploded, got in all the magazines. But I was nervous leaving a good paid job, and making the plunge on my own. But it was kind of forced. They moved out of town, and I was forced to fall up my sleeves and do it full time.
Absolutely.
Just went through a lot of Broncos and testing the market, see what would work and what wouldn't work. But I was always slow and cautious. I never went crazy and never got ahead of ourselves. And I'm glad that that's how we ran it.
Parting out Broncos is hard labor.
But one thing you learn a lot. You know where every nut and bolt is.
Yeah.
And the crew kind of learns all that, and they're very simple. I mean, Ford, let's say all the way back to Henry, making Model A's and T's. He did a good job about this bolt will fit a sedan, a four-door, whatever. So Ford did a great job about keeping it simple. And I think that's why so many people like the old Broncos, because, a headlight switch is the same as a Mustang, same as a pickup.
Yeah.
And, and Ford, mass produced them. And luckily for us, they're pretty simple to work on, and retro parts. And I'm glad Ford brought back the new ones now. So that's kind of how that went.
I wanted to ask you, Walt, what was your first memory of a Bronco?
Yeah.
Ooh, man, that is a good one. Good question. So, lots of memories of Broncos, and I'm trying to remember the first one. It probably would have to be, would have been around 3 or 4, and it was right at the transition when my dad was transitioning from Chevron to doing Broncos full time, and he'd come home and his overall mechanics, it said Tom on it. And then I just remember him coming home with his Bronco, and I remember oh, this is his, I didn't really understand at the time. I was oh, he's no longer gonna be wearing these overalls, he's gonna be wearing these Broncos. So it's just that was kind of my first memory of oh, so he's gonna be doing, his job's going to be Bronco. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was that's cool.
And I had so many friends and relatives just didn't think that, how could you have a job, in a Ford Bronco thing? Over the years, a lot of people have said, you do what? And you sell Bronco parts.
Yeah.
And they just don't realize that that's a real business. And then luckily there's only, a handful of us in the United States that do it.
Right.
And, so that, there's not, I don't really want to say it on air, but Amazon and Walmart haven't figured out, Bronco parts. So, hopefully they never will.
Yeah.
You can edit that out, right, John?
Yeah. We'll pull that out so they don't recognize it.
Grandpa's backyard's completely empty now.
Yeah. So, but no, it's, Walt, I do remember one time we lived on a gravel road, and I would have an old junky plow that I would drag with a chain in the Bronco. And I had a truck 4-speed with that granny first gear, and I remember putting Walt in there in first gear, and I'm going, okay, just steer down the road. It was probably 10 or 12, but it wasn't unsafe.
I feel I was much younger.
Probably not, but just a lot of good memories. And then, we used to race him in the tough truck competition, and, a lot of, good weekends, going out, out the 4-wheel drive with, friends and relatives stuff. But no, been a wild ride with the family.
So, Tom's Offroad was Tom's Bronco parts. Now we're Tom's Offroad.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone that I've met, I've been coming to this event now for the last, 7-8 years. And everyone I talk to, everyone I meet is I've worked here for 12 years. I've worked here for 20 years. I've worked here for 15 years. The environment here is so much more of just a family. It's so much. There's so much to it. When you started the business, was that even a thought in your mind? What were you thinking down the road when you started this business?
One thing back in my Chevron days, I had a couple managers that were really nice and they were easy to get along with, and then I had some managers that were just total jerks.
Yeah.
And and I wanted to be a good manager, a good human, and work with people. So even my teenage years or having a paper route, you got to be nice to people. You got to be nice to the customers. And so I learned that in my teenage years. What goes around comes around. And I've seen some employers or bosses that are real jerks, and that doesn't work in the long run. Might work in the short run, but I think just being a good person and trying to give back and work with everybody is just I think that's one success story. And then hiring the right people that are similar thoughts about just being nice to your coworkers, being nice to the customers, and and I kind of feel like the customers always right and try to work with the customer, and but having a good staff, or even like a good marriage or whatever, you gotta get along, and but I think that's a huge part of the success, is just being like a family, and for many years we were 10, 15 total people under the shop, and now we're around 40 because we've gotten so big.
Closer to 50.
Yeah. So it's gotten a little crazy, but it just takes a lot more people to keep everything legal and the world going around. So it's a little scary getting this big, but it's working, and what's all the new customer base with the 6th-gen Broncos, and then even the older Broncos, they're still super popular, and people wanting to fix them up. So, as long as it seems feasible to keep increasing our staff, but it has gotten big over the last year or two. Yeah, so that's been a little.
This facility, when you open the door and walk in, and you see this showroom, that it's so big you could probably get 6 Broncos in here and all the stuff. Yeah. It's spacious, but the first impression you get is you look straight through to the desk, the big desk where they'll take your order, and there's all this glass and these windows, and you see the parts, and you immediately make this connection when you walk in the door. Oh, they have everything. I probably didn't bring enough money. This is like, I just thought I was going to get some parts, and you guys have everything back there.
Well, that's one of the exciting things about having more space. It means more opportunity for us to bring in more parts, more a selection, but also research and develop new parts, or make older parts better. And we're really excited to be able to provide that to our customers, because really it's one of those things where we love providing every part. Doesn't matter how big or how small for our customers, but it's also exciting at the same time is with the new Bronco coming out, we're really excited with our 6th-gen offerings, and we're excited to continue to provide more 6th-gen offerings, and who knows, someday we might be looking at 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation with all that extra space.
Yeah.
Even the Bronco 2s.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. That's inclusive.
It is.
Yeah.
This is 40 years ago. Give John at KBRS a plug. 40 years ago, I went down to his facility when I was still at my dad's house, and I just had that little warehouse, and John, he had probably a 4,000 foot building, and I was just in awe that how big it was, because I was just right out of the backyard in my sister's bedroom, and then years ago, Alan Jackson was buying a lot of parts, and he was going to be in Vegas, and I called up John, said, hey, he wants to go four-wheeling, so John hooked us up and went four-wheeling with Alan for a day. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, but we built up a Bronco for him maybe 20 years ago, and I wish he would have kept it, but he's bought a lot of Broncos.
What's funny is I've seen that Bronco because I used to do IT work. I used to do IT work for a company that managed Alan Jackson's property.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm there by myself with the manager of the property manager, and I loved Broncos, and I said, hey, I think Alan has a Bronco, doesn't he? And the guy was like, yeah, you want to go see it? So I went and saw. I wasn't allowed to touch it, and saw the collection. So that's hilarious. I never knew that you guys go.
It was kind of weird, when he was just getting started. We were just getting started. He was buying parts, and been a good connection, and bought a lot of Broncos. Actually, he had he wanted me to find a couple old Jeeps out here too, so I found a couple old Jeeps for him. So he's quite the car guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but just the different connections, and then some of the Hollywood people. We've sold quite a few parts to some of the Hollywood people making movies, and sold a few to the Speed movie.
Oh yeah.
And but it's just weird all the connections. With just the little old Broncos.
Okay, so now talk us through. We got Walt sitting here, your son.
Yeah.
What is happening? Walt's coming in here, and you're a dad. You've got your kids. How did you coerce your kids to come and work for you? Like usually kids are like, I want nothing to do with what my dad had, well, what? Like, and Walt's kind of a new face around here a little bit. Like, so what's been going on?
Back up a little, maybe, I'm right at 65 now, but when I was around 50,
you don't look a day over.
When I was, 50, 55, I was telling my sons, and my daughter lived in Portland. She wasn't, capable to come down to Medford. But my son, Mark, the youngest, he came down about three and a half years ago, and he was kind of tired of the Portland life, and, born and raised here along with Walt.
Yeah.
And, he was working in the warehouse and learning the business, and just kind of perfect timing. I kind of wanted to kind of hang up my hat after 40 years, and called up Walt and said, "Hey, are you sure you don't want to move down here?" But his wife was from Portland, and Walt didn't think his wife would move down. And then luckily, Walt talked her into it, and Walt said, "Hey,
she actually talked me into it, but I can get my side too if you want."
Oh, wait, you talked to her.
And then I just thought it would be good that they could carry the torch for another 20, 30 years, and,
wow.
and with the staff that we have and the customer base, it'd be a good fit. And my two younger sons are more on the business side or computer stuff, and but we've got guys in the warehouse and the tech guys and everything. So it was just a blessing in the skies to hand this down to the next generation. And I got to work with my dad for 20 years. He was the greatest mechanic in the world. He did like the business side, so I have the business side. And, I worked with my brother for 10, 15 years, and I had a couple nephews in here. And so I worked with a lot of family members, but some of the staff, I feel like they're almost closer than family. They've been here 20 years. But I think it's just a perfect fit to hand over the reins to my two sons.
That is amazing, Walt.
Yep.
So for people who don't know you, give us a little history of who Walt Wimmer is.
Yeah, so I really liked watching My Little Pony when I was little. Just kidding.
For bringing that.
I haven't watched it until I had kids, actually.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, so grew up with just Broncos all around me, where it was one of those things you're kind of in the bubble, so you didn't realize really how cool it was.
Yeah.
Until you started to get older and just starting to understand the whole gravity of the ball, because it's such a unique thing, such an amazing community. Just outside, not even talking business, just the Bronco community as a whole. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is one big family, and it's people have, made best friends, lifelong friendships, met significant others, spouses, the list goes on and on. So it's just really neat to be, part of this, and just growing up around it is one of those things where it's one of those things I think I might have took it for granted a little bit growing up. So it's really fun to come back and be okay, this time around I'm making sure I'm not taking it for granted. But so yeah, growing up, always loved riding in my dad's Broncos, coming down to the shop, causing a ruckus with my siblings, make Ford out of the cardboard boxes. We'd play in the lofts, play on the intercom. It was really just fun. Because again, it felt like a family, and it started off, like a small family, and it's continued to grow since then. So I first started working at Tom's Offroad in 2022, so the summer before my 8th grade year. And just like my dad, I was sweeping floors and just really...
2022?
2012. 2002.
2002.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like,
it's been
8th grade? You look a little older.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta study. I got sophomore year of high school coming up here.
2002. Okay, yeah.
2002.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So 2002 was my first time working for my dad. So it's kind of cool coming full circle. He was my first manager, and now he'll be my last. But yeah, so like I said, I was sweeping floors, just really doing whatever needed to be done. So helping out with manufacturing, helping out with inventory, helping out with shipping, really just learning the ropes and learning more about the Bronco, the nuts and bolts. So it was really fun. And what was really neat is that during that time, I worked in the summers through middle school and high school and college as well. And what was really neat is that when I came back a year ago to Tom's Offroad, I already knew half the crew because it's the same people that were working back then when I was in middle school and high school and college. So it's just really cool. Like, there's so many great friendships that have formed here. People hang out outside of work all the time. There's a bunch of siblings that work here, spouses, brother-in-laws, cousins, first cousin, twice removed. The list goes on and on. So it's really fun. So yeah, growing up, it was just around Broncos.
Everyone family in Medford? Is that
yeah,
what we're learning?
It really is.
Everyone's related?
Someone is related. But then, so yeah, I went to college, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to study, and so I ended up doing business because that's a safe bet. So went to the University of Oregon. Go Ducks.
There you go.
Studied business, and then moved up to Portland after I graduated. And it was one of those things. I was living up in Portland. My wife and I had a lot of great friends, community friends from college who grew up in the Portland area. So we really just felt like, oh, this is a great fit. And so my dad, pretty much once every year at least, he'd always check in with all the siblings and be like, hey, just checking in, are you interested? Working at the Bronco shop. Just want to make sure in case you want to take over.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we're good, Dad, we're good. And it was great because, at the time, it was one of those things, it wasn't the right time yet. And I think the big thing for me, when you ask the question of, how did this all transpire, was just the right timing. So it was one of those things where, studied business, went up to Portland, worked for Adidas for about 5 years, which was awesome. So did a bunch of brand marketing roles with them. So I got to really get a lot of great experience from a business perspective, which was really fun. And then after that, I worked in real estate for a while, flipping houses. And so it was one of those things, it really was kind of the silver lining of COVID and the pandemic. That's kind of one of the things that really opened my wife and I up to moving back down to Medford. And so again, my dad kept checking in, every year. And then my brother ended up moving down here, started working here, so that was part of it. And then I was talking to my wife Lauren, and I was like, oh, I think, what do you think? And she decided yes before I did. I was like, whoa, that kind of scared me. So I was like, all right. I was like, that happened quick. So yeah, long story short, actually short story long. My bad, guys. So moved down here, let's see here, would have been June of 2022, not 2002, 2022.
Full 20 years later.
Yes, full 20 years later. Wow. So it was one of those things where just really excited to come down to be part of the crew again, and also just an exciting time with the move and everything else going on in the Bronco world. There's just a lot of exciting opportunities that I look forward to taking advantage of, and it's just really an honor too for my brother Mark and I to continue the legacy that my dad has built. And we're we've seen it modeled by my dad for years and years, but just treating other people like you want to be treated, whether it be your team members, whether it be customers, whether it be a stranger, a neighbor, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is. So that's the same philosophy we're taking. So we're keeping that same DNA of what makes Tom's Offroad great. So it's one of those things. We're going to take care of our team members. We're always going to take care of our customers, and we're continuing to offer the best products that we can.
Oh, yeah.
And I like how you guys refer to this is a pretty big change. When you walk in the door here, it kind of blows your mind.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, and you guys have a name for this. It's, what do you call it? Tom's
2.0?
2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah. New version.
Yes. Yeah.
It's totally. It's like the same thing but better.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's just that evolution of okay, what's that next step?
Why can't you get Tom's 2.0 body?
Yeah.
that should be next.
Yeah. When Walt was talking, I wanted to throw in a story. A lot of times my wife and my family 20 years ago kind of didn't realize the Bronco family and the Bronco customers. Just didn't realize how loyal they are and how enthusiastic they are to Bronco. And, just a lot of times at home, they didn't realize just how popular they are. And maybe Mark, my youngest son, he was around 10 years old, took him to Pennsylvania on one of the Bronco outings. There's 100 Broncos there in Pennsylvania. And anyway, it was just my son, Mark, and I. And we'd go around the campground to go four-wheeling or whatever. We didn't have a Bronco. We just flew out. But I'll always remember this. A couple people wanted to take their picture with me on the Bronco, Mark goes, my youngest son, he goes, "Why do they want your picture, Dad?" And, it's like, well, these Broncos are pretty famous, and just the customers that we have and the enthusiastic, just how it is that my family just didn't realize that this is quite a, I don't want to say cult following, but I mean it's pretty big deal.
Knit, yes.
Close knit is a much better word.
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. But anyway.
Not to digress. So, if you recognize my dad out in public, especially when like any families around, please come up and say hi to him because I just love it. I think it's hilarious. So just one quick story example why it's so great. We were on a family vacation back in probably 2004, 2005, and we're just at the beach, like swimming at the ocean, and someone random comes up, and my dad, he's just in his swim trunks and a long sleeve white t-shirt and like one of those big like brim hats, so like no sun can touch him. Yeah. So that's always a giveaway.
Yeah.
If you're looking for him, look for any shady spots or a big hat, and you'll find Tom. But a customer just came up and was like, "Excuse me, are you Tom from Talk's Bronco Parts?" And it was great. So it just goes back. It's kind of funny. Like I still am in awe of just like the amazing community, and just like it's just cool to see when they interact with my dad to see like how much, not only does their Bronco mean to them, but also just like the community that they have found at Tom's Offroad as well.
And it was always a blessing. Maybe 5 years ago, I quit answering the phone so much at work, but I used to love talking to people on the phone. I did it hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I'd make the order and say hi, what do you need, this and that. But a couple times, they ask who this was. I go, "Well, this is Tom," and they're just gonna Tom's, yeah. So just try to be humble and simple and answer the questions. But it gives you a nice thrill that the customers appreciate, the hard work and, that goes back into the business. Yeah. But anyway.
I like, what is it? How does it feel being a dad and having grown this business as a businessman and now handing it over to, not yet. We're not handing it over yet. Okay, they got to earn their keep, But I mean, how do you feel right now?
Just real special, that because I got to work with my dad and brothers and stuff like that, and and family, and just to he's for my DNA. If you took a blood sample, I'm sure there's my blood, and I want it to be in their bloodline, and which it will be, but it's just really neat to hand that, and then I'm just so glad that a lot of the staff are willing to take it another 20 years, also 30 years, but pretty special, to be able to and to keep it in the generation, or the family bloodline or whatever.
And sorry, I forgot to add earlier about me section. So also like the first like really hands-on experience I had with a Bronco. So my dad helped me find my first Bronco. It was a 1976 Bronco. So I got that in 2003.
Nice.
And high school. Yep. And so he helped fix it up. Some of the crew at the shop helped me fix it up as well. And drove it all throughout high school. Loved it. Great memories. Just anytime I had a Bronco, it brings me back to high school. Listened to Jack Johnson, cruising on some country roads. It was an amazing time. Right. And so, but my dad and I were talking about it, like, maybe get something a little bit more fuel efficient for college, something that you won't have to work on as, much upkeep. I'm like, okay. So I ended up selling my Bronco right after like my senior year of high school, and to this day, it's still the biggest regret of my life. Yeah. It's one of those things, like, it was just fun growing up around Broncos, and also, like, just, everyone has that, like, oh, what was your first Bronco? Yeah. Like, everyone has that story, so it's really cool to, like, to come back here to get another Bronco again, and it's one of those things where it's just fun to just continue learning. Like, I feel like you never can stop learning about Broncos. It's really neat.
You drove a Bronco today. Is that a new one of yours?
It is, yes. So,
turn the music down.
It is
music. Can you turn the music down?
It's a great song, but it's a loud song. Yeah.
Sorry, I was like,
Do I have time to tell a high school story?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Definitely.
So in high school, I also had.
Let's let the music hit. There we go.
He'll do the high school thing, and they'll ask you about your new Bronco.
Sounds good.
Is it? I didn't see it. I was on the other trail.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
It's a Brittany Blue, 1971, uncut.
Is it Brittany
pretty
Blue or
stuffy.
Caribbean Blue?
Brittany Blue.
It is?
I believe now, but now I'm questioning
A lot of
It is.
TV,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bronco on there. But
All right.
But being that Walt told a high school story on his Bronco, when I was in high school, I had my Bronco, and you know, I'd come into the parking lot and I thought I was the baddest ass in town, you know. But you know, nobody thought a Bronco was very cool back then. You did a few.
You're ahead of the trend.
Yeah, but I remember one winter night or one winter day, before I parked in the parking lot, there was this field right next to the parking lot, and I would go out there and do donuts and spray mud around and act cool. But I just happened, all the hoods that were smoking cigarettes were out there by the trees, and I plastered one up with mud, and I'm going, oh geez, and so I knew the fight was on. So but anyway, so I got in a fight over my Bronco at school. Yeah, but luckily
I've never heard this story.
he was bigger than I was, and I took wrestling in high school, and I knew he was going to be able to beat me up, so I got him in a headlock, and I broke his poker shells, and somebody thought I broke his teeth, and then luckily they split us up, and I went ahead, got in my Bronco and left. But
that was amazing.
but yeah, got in a fight at school over the old Bronco.
That is amazing. I wonder how many people have gotten in fights over their Bronco, you know, like similar, like feeling out. Or,
And then
Could be a whole episode.
Yeah.
Could be.
You know, and then also I was I was a crazy driver. I had a 351 Windsor in my Bronco, car 4-speed out of the Mustang, and it was fast with the top off. And every cop in Medford knew me. And sometimes I'd get pulled over, and I was pretty good about talking my way out of a ticket. And I remember this one cop, I go, well, there's a lot of blue Broncos in town. He goes, it was this blue Bronco. It's all screwed around.
Oh, they're
But,
fun.
Yeah. So a lot of good Dukes of Hazzard stories in the old Broncos back then.
well, could we introduce your family and get them over here and meet the whole family over here, starting with the best looking of the bunch.
I'm already sitting down, John.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Kidding.
How do you want to do the camera? You want them to have them step
I think.
Yeah, we wanted to introduce the entire
Yeah.
Tom's family.
in here. We got it.
Yeah.
Family.
So this is, yeah.
Youngest.
Well, they can't hear you now because you're not by the mic. I
yeah.
can do it.
Yeah.
So this is Mark, my brother, Tom's son,
Hello, Mark.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
and over here on my right, your left is Lori, my mom.
Hello.
Were you responsible for these 3 kids?
Yes.
And then Katie coming a little bit closer. There you go.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
And that's our sister, Katie.
You guys, it's so great just having all of you. Obviously, thank you so much for this event, but thank you guys just for the Tom's Off-Road legacy. You know, like, this isn't I'm sure there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people out there who are thankful for the sacrifices that you guys have made. I know as kids, it didn't feel like as much, but especially you guys kicking this company off and doing this. And now this is where we are at in this incredible facility. 2 boys working for the company, you know, and it is an awesome legacy. And from on behalf of the Bronco family, I thank you guys. I thank the Wimmer family for what you guys have done. It's awesome.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, we want to say thank you to you guys and thank you to all the customers, because without the customers, none of this would have been possible.
Yeah.
Want to say anything, Mark? Add to that? And looking forward to tomorrow. We're going to have a big party at the park with all the Broncos, correct?
Yeah. But this will be in the past by the time the pod comes.
That's true. This one's there after.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's good to know.
It'll be
for people to know.
flashback.
Yeah. It'll be flashback.
For next year.
Yes, it's for next year. We got sound bites already for next year.
That is awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah. And a thank you to our parents as well.
Yeah.
Because without my mom and dad, none of this would be possible too. So we're really excited.
Who also wouldn't be possible without your mom and dad.
That's science.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. That was awesome.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.